For the next 31 days on the FCPA Compliance Report, we're going to be bringing you a daily tip, strategy, or idea that you can use to improve your program. Here's your host, Tom Fox, the Compliance Evangelist.
Using compliance to drive a speak-up culture. How often have you thought about the role of communications in your entire hotline reporting system? I do not mean posters giving the hotline number, promising anonymity and non-retaliation. I mean using compliance communications to create a social environment where employees feel comfortable speaking up to ask questions and report concerns, and they know their options for doing so. Why do many compliance professionals find it so difficult to use compliance communications to help move the ball forward on driving a speak-up culture? It begins because many conflate such communications with training tends to be viewed as something that happens once per year or on a similar cadence. Yet even the DOJ has seen through the fallacy of this argument in its 2020 update when it stated, companies have invested in shorter, more targeted training sessions to enable employees to timely identify and raise issues to appropriate compliance, internal audit, or other risk management functions. The 2020 update also leads to the following questions. What resources have been made available to your employees to provide guidance related to raising an issue? And has your company assessed whether its employees know when to seek advice and whether they would be willing to speak up? Can you answer these questions to the satisfaction of the DOJ? If not, you may have a gap in your Speak Up compliance communications program. Moreover, one of the missions of Ronnie Feldman, founder of Creativity and Compliance, has been the fight against dull, boring training, which is not listened to or quickly forgotten if listened to at all. When it comes to hotlines and Speak Up, this is particularly true when dull posters or other non-creative techniques are used. It can also come off as preachy or inauthentic when it should be inspirational. Obviously, cadence can also be a reason, as many companies will have a Speak Up campaign once a year for weeks or worse every other year. Antithetical to most compliance practitioners, in the back of many employees' minds, there are still those old tapes telling them it's not cool to tattle, don't be a snitch or a drama llama. When these thoughts are not as nefarious, many people still may not want to get involved, believe that someone else will take care of it, or even do not desire to get anyone else in trouble. Whatever the excuse is, you as the compliance professional will have to reverse this kind of thinking, which takes time. What are some of the things you can do to establish trust? It should begin with the idea that communications are more important than training because it allows you to continually promote compliance and do so creatively so that people will pay attention and remember. Creativity is the key, but the messaging is just as important as being creative. You need to strive for transparency in the process. Ryan Rabelais has called this the black box problem in compliance. Employees do not understand the process, so they do not trust it. This is where transparency comes in. You need to use stories to share the mechanisms of your compliance process. Make sure employees understand that they will be apprised of the steps you are taking. Each allegation, issue, or report should be triaged, investigated to conclusion, and follow up with an action step if warranted. Of course, if the report is serious enough, it may be elevated to senior management or to the board. Even if this happens, you need to keep transparency in mind to the extent that you can do. Finally, a speak-up culture only exists when it is paired with true listen-up culture. This means you need to provide skills and resources for management so they will be able to accept a report or issue or information that an employee wants to speak up about. As Ronnie Feldman continually reminds us, improv comedy is really about listening, so you can learn listening skills through it. All of this may seem challenging during the time of COVID-19 and the current economic dislocation, where the vast majority of employees are working from home. It is during this time that compliance communications are even more important. Yet even within these strictures, there are some creative actions you can take. How about a compliance commercial during a Zoom meeting? You can take the Zoom concept even further by having a Zoom talk show around compliance. You can include an outside compliance professional. Want a comedy bin? Look no further than Ronnie Feldman. How about Compliance Jeopardy? Want to take it a step further and near and dear to my heart? How about a compliance podcast using internal stories of compliance victories in your organization? The bottom line to all this is that in compliance, you are only limited by your imagination. When you overlay creativity on your imagination, you can create something very special. You can use compliance communications to drive a speak-up culture. So what are today's 3 key takeaways? Number 1, how can compliance communications improve a speak-up culture? I think we demonstrated that it can be done very strongly through this. Number 2, have you thought about using compliance communications to foster trust? Trust is a key element in any compliance program, and the part of the compliance program around Speak Up is probably one where trust is the biggest factor. So how can you use your own communications and compliance communications to foster trust? Number 3, always remember that a Speak Up culture only works when paired with a Listen Up culture. Listening is as important as the speak up part. So you as a compliance professional have to listen, and you have to listen to what the reporter or hotline provider is saying. Hello everyone, this is Tom Fox. I'd like to thank you again for joining me for this episode of 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program around business ventures. And I hope you will join me for our next episode tomorrow. This podcast series on 31 Days to a More Effective Compliance Program is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.